been coming like later and later to the meeting for some reason, so I was like, it's barely going to be felt, don't worry about it. Like everybody's like starting to come at 9 these days. Yeah, we're very happy that Mark was able to join us tonight. Thank you very much. Thank you for coming. You guys know Mark from the retreats, and some of you know him from Marash in Toronto.
And he's going to be coming again for the retreat. We're having another one May 21st.
Yes,
So please mark your calendars, and then we'll
May 21st.
Hi everyone. How are you guys? Good. So we're in a season called Christmas. Well, it's when we wait for the transfiguration of Jesus, correct? Just kidding. Okay, it's when Moses. Okay, so we are in Lent, and one of the biggest challenges with regards to Lent is that we are invited to fast. Now, what's your understanding of fasting? Talk to me, just throw out words. What's fasting?
Self-control.
Self-control?
sacrifice.
Sacrifice? Loving God? And glory be to God forever and ever. Done my talk. You guys are amazing. Shall we pray? You guys are, this is the thing, you guys are way too spiritual. Let me have something to teach you. You already know everything. Tell us. Okay, glory to God. So anything else? Anybody else that's unspiritual like me? That would like to share? Tameya! There we go!
That's the answer.
Siami kak. Siami shawarma. Has anyone ever had the Siami shawarma? Exactly. Anyone, not Lent, but like the Christmas Advent fast? All you can eat? Sushi. Right. Right. And then there's the argument that we should have sushi in Jonah's fast, because all Jonah had was sushi. For 3 days, that's all he had was raw fish. Okay. I want to kind of approach something that we're very used to practicing from a perspective to do with hunger. I wanted to kind of explore hunger because I think that one of the most important things about Lent is to be hungry. Yes, I said the H word, hungry. Yeah. Was hunger something that that Adam and Eve knew in paradise? Was there such a thing as hunger?
No.
What do you guys think?
Because like, hunger is like type of weakness.
Okay.
We didn't know any type of weakness.
Correct. So the church fathers say that in the Garden of Eden there was no hunger, but they still ate. That's really cool. In the kingdom, there will be no hunger, but there will still be food. So, hunger is something that reminds us, that was a gift from God, that reminds us of our fallenness. In fact, it was something that was introduced to us. It was something very foreign, and hunger actually is very much associated to okay. Has anyone been really hungry in their life before? Like really hungry. I mean, like, yeah, I mean, a couple days, 3 days. How long have you gone without eating? 3 days, 4 days? Anyone go 5 days without eating? 6 days?
Me 6 hours.
If anyone is hungry, by the way, there's cushion.
Yeah. Please, I would love for you to eat while I'm talking. You'll really get the most benefit. So one of the things about hunger is it's totally associated with fear. Hunger is connected to fear because there's this kind of like, it's insane. You will not die if you don't eat for a few days. You really won't. In fact, you probably go a good 30, 40 days just on water. Like biologically, you won't die. But but it feels like you're going to die. It feels like I need to satisfy this. I need to do something about this hunger, or else something very bad is going to happen. So hunger is something that we received and that we experienced only after the fall. In the Garden of Eden, Adam and Eve were in perfect harmony with God. So they, like God was everything to them. They didn't need anything because they had perfect union with Him. So their joy, their peace, their fulfillment, their everything was found in being one with God. They were created in His image and in His likeness. And it was only when Satan he came, that's English, he came to Eve and said to her, listen, here I'm going to give you something that will satisfy you, that will make you like God, but it's not God. So Adam and Eve were already like God because of God. They were dressed and clothed in His grace. They were one with Him. They were in His image and in His likeness. Satan comes and says, listen, I'm going to make you like God, but without God. Here, turn your attention to food. Turn your attention to something else, and you'll become like God without needing God. A lot of people freak out with Satan saying, oh my goodness, nobody can be like God. No. Adam and Eve were already like Him. They were already dressed in grace, in God's glory. They were already, they were already dressed in God. They couldn't see each other as naked because they were dressed in Him. And then Satan comes and says, here, take this. Turn your attention away from God, and you will find satisfaction, and you will become like Him, knowing good and evil. And so what happened was, hunger was born. Because what happened was, when they ate of the fruit, they were separated from God, and they started feeling hunger. Unlike what Satan said it would do, it made them less than human. Forget becoming like God, it made them less than human. And because they became less than human, they started experiencing hunger. They started experiencing fear. They started feeling the need to satisfy with other things. And when they would eat, only a few hours later, what would happen? They'd be hungry again. And this became very much an icon of what sin does to us. Right? We're promised satisfaction. Do this, it's sinful. But whatever. Do this, it'll feel amazing. Right? And we all think right away, I mean, yeah, maybe with drugs and then you get addicted. Forget it. How about gossiping? Just tell that one story. You'll feel great. You'll feel like... And at the end, you say, let's pray for them because I really feel bad for them. It's baloney. It never satisfies. Sin never satisfies. You do it, and then you find yourself hungry for more. Hungry for more. Hungry for more. In fact, hunger is a mechanism that is inside of us that's so entrenched in us that it actually drives the majority of our behavior. Not in a good way. So all of a sudden we found that our body and our soul and our spirit begins to have hunger. Each one is hungry to satisfy itself. So the body is looking for pleasure, comfort. The soul is looking for being lifted up, being praised, being loved, being noticed. And it is only the spirit, crushed and quenched by the body and the soul, that is hungry for God. And it's very hard to satisfy that hunger when all you hear is the hunger of your body and your soul, and you're constantly satisfying it, constantly filling it. Right? Consider Esau. Do you guys know the story of Jacob and Esau? That's the name, right? Jacob and Esau. Two brothers. Do you remember what Esau gave up for a bowl of hats? Like if it was pizza, if it was like a sub, or if it was like wings or ribs, but hats, he gave up his whole inheritance for a bowl of lentils. Ribs, okay. But lentils? Hunger can drive us to give up so much just to satisfy that hunger. So there's really two sides to hunger. There's a dark side, and we can be hungry for very dark things like vengeance. Have you ever seen someone who's so upset that they're just dying to get revenge? We could be hungry for success, for ambition. We could be hungry for possessions, for titles. Those are all different hungers that lead us into darker and darker places and actually make us less and less satisfied. Do you guys remember the Samaritan woman? What did she do every single day? She came to the well to get water. And Jesus says to her, listen, I'm going to give you water that you'll never thirst again. I could just see her. She must have just freaked out. What do you mean? What? Like this? Like I don't have to walk to the well every single day? Too good to be true. She's like, I'm going to listen to this guy. He's promising something that will so satisfy me that I won't need to do this over and over. My question to you today is, what are you hungry for? Because what you're hungry for decides what you do in the day. Think about it. And it could be hungry for normal things, like tamaya. But you could also be hungry for a lot of other things. And what you're hungry for decides what you do every single day. For example, have you ever been late for work or late for school? Anybody? You guys are saints. Yeah. Okay, you're okay. So you are Egyptian. Some of you are Egyptian. Okay, good. Some of you?
Egyptian saints.
Egyptian saints. Man, my poor son. We lived. This is before we homeschooled. Big reason why we homeschooled. We lived I think it was a kilometer, 1.3 kilometers away from the school. Literally, he could run there. We were late every single day, not by 5 minutes, by half an hour to an hour. One day he came back and we're like, David, why is your whole English textbook empty? He's like, Dad, that's the first period and I never make it on time. Hold on. So, yeah, it's pathetic. But have you ever noticed how when you're late, how angry you can get sometimes? What's that anger from? What are you hungry for? What are you hungry for? You don't want people. Yeah. You want to appear well in front of people. So you're hungry for approval. You're hungry for not being yelled at. Totally normal. That's a normal, that's normal. But ask yourself about what you do when you get home. What are you hungry for? Do you run to TV? Do you run to your Xbox? Do you run to Facebook? What are you hungry for? You have to know what you're hungry for, and you have to decide and see if that hunger gives life or doesn't. So this whole idea of Lent is given to us as a time to be hungry for God. I knew this one uncle came to me and he said, he's older. And he said, one day I was speaking to Amberways. He said to him, Sayyidina, I have a beautiful wife. I have beautiful kids. I have a great job. I have a beautiful house. I've got a great car. But I'm really unhappy. I'm really unhappy. Sayyidina said to him, Habibi, go confess. Isn't that a cool answer? What's the connection, Sayyidina? He's telling him, you've been hungry for all these things, and you're now discovering that they don't satisfy. He says, I have everything that any North American wants. I've got it all. Good job, happy wife, good kids. I've got everything. And his answer was, go confess. Go reveal what that hunger, that deep hunger that you have is. My son plays soccer. And I was driving him to practice. And he said to me, Dad, my coach told me to do something strange. He said, if you find someone in a tryout is playing in your position, you should injure him so he doesn't take your place on the team. This is my son's coach is telling him to go and take out some guy's knees because he's going to play in his position. And in this society, in this day and age, I'm telling him, David, that's ludicrous, that's dark, that's evil, that's wicked. You'd break your coach's knees. No, I'm just kidding. I said, that's ridiculous. But his answer was, Dad, everybody does that. For some reason, we have allowed our hunger for things to overrule our judgment, to overrule our love for others. The opposite is true. When we are hungry for God, then we are able to love others even at the cost of hurting ourselves. I think this is what I really want to get down to. If you can remember only one thing, is that the hunger that we are invited to experience in Lent is a hunger for God. I read for you a passage in the Song of Solomon. I want you to picture this. This is a love song in the Bible between a man and a woman. And I remember a Babulist teaching me about how to read this book. He said to me that this is a love song between Solomon and a lady called the Shulamite. And the Shulamite just means the one who belongs to Solomon. And it's this beautiful love thing going back and forth. It's actually filled with beautiful, passionate love for one another. He says that when you read it, Solomon is Christ. Okay, Solomon is Christ, and your soul is the Shulamite, the woman. So there's this back and forth. You are so beautiful, I love you, and they love each other, and it's just really beautiful. Then chapter 5 happens. So this is the Shulamite speaking. So this is your soul saying, I sleep, but my heart is awake. It is the voice of my beloved. He knocks, saying, open for me, my sister, my love, my dove, my perfect one. For my head is covered with dew, my locks with drops of the night. So here is an image of God knocking on the door of the soul. Are you following? She answers, I have taken off my robe. How can I put it on again? I have washed my feet. How can I defile them? So she makes this excuse. She says, listen, I don't really feel like getting to the door, getting up and coming and opening the door. Has God ever knocked on the door of your heart and you're just not really hungry for Him? Because hunger means desire. It means a longing for. And the excuse that she gives him is so ultra lame. I washed my feet. I don't want to dirty them. We think it's lame, but how often have we made the same types of excuses? Jesus, I promise I'm going to pray tomorrow mornings because if I stand, my knees are going to break off. Has anyone been afraid of their knees breaking off in prayer? Happens every day. Jesus, do you see how I went up the stairs 3 times today? Manish, I'll pray from bed. So she tells him, I have taken off my robe. How can I put it on again? I have washed my feet. How can I defile them? This is not someone who is hungry for God. Right? My beloved put his hand by the latch of the door, and then all of a sudden she had a bit of a hunger. She said, and my heart yearned for him. I arose to open for my beloved, and my hands dripped with myrrh, my fingers with liquid myrrh on the handle of the lock. I opened for my beloved. Are you ready for this? But my beloved had turned away and was gone. Wait a second. God is knocking on your door. And you tell him, just malish. And then you go to the door and you open and he's gone. I opened for my beloved, but my beloved had turned away and was gone. My heart leaped up when he spoke. I sought him, but I could not find him. I called him, but he gave me no answer. The watchmen who went about the city, they found me, they struck me, they wounded me. The keepers of the wall took my veil away from me. And this is a real image of being really beaten up by sin. So she longs for God. She gets to the door. She opens it, and he's not there. Remember, just a few seconds ago, she was afraid of dirtying her feet. Like such a lame excuse. Now that she has something called the hunger for God, the hunger for her beloved, she gets beaten up. Her veil is removed from her, completely in shame, and look at what her answer is. She says, I charge you, O daughters of Jerusalem, if you find my beloved, that you would tell him that I am lovesick. I'm lovesick. I miss him. Do you ever miss Jesus? Do you ever miss the sweetness of being with him? This is what Lent is about. Lent is about coming and saying, I am lovesick. If you see him, tell him that I miss him. Tell him that I'm wounded with love for him. I can't live without him. And from that place of hunger, look what happens. All the needs of her body, all the needs of her soul, all the hunger for everything else in the world goes to the wayside. When she was so concerned about her feet and putting on a robe, now she doesn't care. She's thrown in the streets, and her veil is removed. She doesn't care. Tell him, I am lovesick. Then her friends tell her, I love this. What is your beloved more than any other beloved? Like, what's the big deal? Like, what's the big deal? Tell me what's the big deal about this beloved. And I'm asking you tonight, what is your beloved more than any others? Can you answer that question? Who is Jesus to you that he's worth giving everything up for? Who is he to you? Do you have an answer? Listen to what she answers. So they say to her, what is your beloved more than any other beloved, O fairest among women? What is your beloved more than any other beloved that you so charge us? Listen to her answer. She's ready. This is the answer of someone who is hungry for God. My beloved is white and ruddy, chief among 10,000. His head is like the finest gold. His locks are wavy and black as a raven. His eyes are like doves, but by the river of waters washed with milk and fitly set. His cheeks are like a bed of spices. She goes on and on, talking about her beloved. His hands are rods of gold set with beryl. His body is carved ivory, inlaid with sapphires. His legs are pillars, and so on and so on. Is Jesus this to you? Is the Lord Jesus your beloved? Is he the one that you are hungry for and don't care if the world makes you look like a fool? Are you hungry for him? Yes, he's altogether lovely. This is my beloved, and this is my friend, O daughters of Jerusalem. In chapter 3, in another time where she was separated from him, she writes, or she says, scarcely had I passed by them when I found the one I love. I held him and would not let him go until I had brought him to the house of my mother. When you're hungry for Jesus and you find him, then you will be satisfied. Then you will cling and cleave to him. See, if Lent is anything but hunger for God, if it's about you becoming more spiritual, for example, it's a waste of time. If it's about you following some sort of religious rule so that you can feel good about yourself, it's a waste of time. We hunger and thirst in Lent. Why? So that we can put aside the hunger of the body and the soul to be hungry for God. St. John Chrysostom writes about this in the most beautiful way. This is St. John Chrysostom speaking as though he's Jesus. He says, this is like Jesus telling us, I am Father, I am brother, I am bridegroom, I am dwelling place, I am food, I am raiment, I am foundation. All whatsoever you desire, I am. So this is Jesus talking to the soul. He's telling you, I'm all these things. Everything that you desire, I am. Be in need of nothing. I'll even be a servant for you. For I came to minister, not to be ministered to. I am friend and member and head and brother and sister and mother. I am all. Only cling closely to me. Hold on to me. When you fast and you are hungry for union with God and you find Him, that He is everything, that He is the one that satisfies, that He is brother, mother, sister, that He's everything to you, friend and beloved. And He tells you, desire nothing else. Let me be everything to you. He says, I was poor for you. I was a wanderer for you, on the cross for you, in the tomb for you. Above, I intercede for you. On earth, I have come for your sake, an ambassador from my Father. And then he turns and says, this is the crazy part. This is where St. John Chrysostom just like blows me away. So yes, I get it that God is everything to us. That makes sense, right? But then he says this. You are everything to me. You are everything to me. Brother and joint heir, friend and member. What more do you want? Meaning, how can you be hungry for anything else? We're cool with God being everything to us. But can you imagine that God, who has not sinned, also is hungry for you? He is hungry for us. When he was hung on the cross, looking at the people who hated him the most, what did he say? I thirst. How can you thirst, Lord? How's that possible? Because you and me are everything to him. If we weren't everything to him, then he would have never come. He would have never made himself a servant. He would have never died on the cross. It's only when you're crazy in love with someone, it's only when you are passionately and crazy in love with someone that you are willing to forget about yourself and run towards them. And this is what he did. So what is Lent? Lent is recognizing that we must stop being hungry for everything else but him. We're super cool with being hungry for coffee and tea and chocolate, and we pass by chocolate like, oh, I have to have it, and we pass by, you know, whatever other craving, oh, I must have. We're totally cool with being hungry for everything except being hungry for God. In fact, we approach God with a kind of moderate hunger. I would love to put a limit, like, I'm going to give you 10 minutes today. Like, we're almost saying, like, you should thank yourself that, thank God. Okay, so you should be thankful that I'm giving you 10 minutes. That doesn't sound like hunger. In fact, we have so filled ourselves with the world, it's very hard to be hungry for God. So the church says, no, stop. Make yourself hungry for God by emptying yourself of the world. He is the only one that can satisfy us. There's a beautiful story from the First Nations, the Cherokee tribe specifically. It goes like this. It's a grandfather talking to his grandson. And he's telling his grandson about life. He says, listen, there's a war between two wolves inside of you. One wolf is anger, greed, lust, hatred, vengeance. The other wolf is love, joy, peace, kindness, sacrificial love. So he says there's a war between the two wolves. So the grandson looks up to his grandfather and says, so who's going to win? Who's going to win?
Whichever you feed the most.
Whichever you feed the most. Whichever you feed the most. St. Paul doesn't use wolves. He calls it the flesh and the spirit. The flesh lusts against the spirit, and the spirit lusts against the flesh. There's a war going on inside of us. Your body has demands. Your soul has demands. And your spirit has demands. Whose hunger are you going to feed? The church tells us, enough pampering your body. Enough pampering your soul. It's time to start listening to the hunger of your spirit and feed. Be hungry for God as God is hungry for you. Glory be to God forever and ever. Amen. Any thoughts? Yeah.
So how do you build on hunger?
How do you build on hunger? So, very practically, the church teaches us, that reading scripture, for example, is food. So when you actually stop eating, and instead of being afraid of hunger, you actually make friends with hunger. You actually okay, I'm going to reconcile with being physically hungry. I'm not going to freak out. I'm not going to become hangry. You guys know about hangry? When you're hungry and angry, it's a scientific term. It's called anger. So I'm not gonna die if I don't eat. I'm not gonna die. So you don't eat. So you place a boundary around yourself. I'm not gonna eat until I'm hungry. And the moment you're hungry, you say, okay, I'm gonna run and pray to fill that hunger. I'm gonna run and read my Bible. I really wanted to teach this to my kids. So I remember sitting around a table, and they were eating, and they're like, Dad, aren't you hungry? I'm like, I'm starving. So look, eat. I'm like, good point. Okay, I'll see you guys. I got up. Like, where are you going? I'm going downstairs to the prayer room. And they're like, what? I'm like, that's how you feed when you're hungry. So it's that simple. Like Lent is not rocket science. Become hungry, and when you're hungry, go and pray and read your Bible. Fill up. I promise you, hunger will disappear. And then you learn, like Pavlov's dogs, how you can actually train your body so that when you're hungry, it triggers a desire for prayer and solitude and reading the Bible. You can actually train your body to think that way. Do you get what I'm saying? Like, it's super straightforward, simple, nothing complicated about it. So make friends with hunger, and when you're hungry, read your Bible. If anyone has seen the one I love, tell him I'm lovesick. We're so full that we're not lovesick. We're so full of other stuff that we're like, oh, Jesus is great, yeah, But to be lovesick, have you ever seen a teenager lovesick? You think they have a problem. You pray for them and you get them antidepressants because they're lovesick, right? We need to be like those teenagers. Totally. We need to be lovesick. Like, tell him, do whatever you want for me. I just want him. He's everything to me. Yes?
So what's the point of not eating meat?
It's a good question. What's the point of not eating meat and dairy and... So there's a couple of answers to that. First of all, the fathers have said, especially the desert fathers, have commented on how when you eat meat, you actually it can really awaken the passions inside of you. They found that when you don't eat meat, like when you're more vegan or vegetarian, that the passions don't have as strong of a strength in your body. This is one of the reasons. The second reason is that people typically like eating meat. So the purpose of not eating meat is to learn to say no to something. That's why it's ludicrous to have Xiaomi shawarma, or to have a veggie burger that tastes better than the meat burger, because you're not achieving anything. What you're trying to achieve by not eating meat, you're totally wasting it. So number one, because a vegetarian diet actually affects your passions and it lessens the strength of your body. And then the second reason is because people love it. It's fatty, it's yummy, and you learn to say no to them. You don't pamper to the flesh. You don't say, oh, I have a craving, oh, must run and do it. You know what I mean? It's quite annoying. Yes?
Just about the hunger thing, even Jesus himself, when he found that the people are immune to it,
Yes?
like, even like, because like, he said like, okay, like this is gonna take them a few hours to go back to their homes. Okay, like no, I need to feed them before they leave,
Lest they faint.
Like, anything.
Very good.
So he even took care of the prayers.
Correct. So thank God we're not in the desert and we haven't been walking with him for days, and we don't have that physical requirement to eat to survive. Typically our lives are pretty good. Now, if you're going to faint, eat. The purpose of fasting is to intensify your prayer life, not to get a migraine and be in pain and not be able to pray. So whatever you're doing, if it gets in the way of prayer, it's no longer fasting. Now you're trying to flex your spiritual muscles, and then you're not even seeking union with God. Whatever helps you pray is the purpose of fasting. So if, for example, in a situation where you are like dying of a migraine and you're unable to pray because of the pain that you're in, dude, find something that you hate, eat it for the purpose of energy, and pray. So yes, I'm not saying to be dysfunctional. I'm not saying hurt your body. I'm saying we have an issue. We're constantly satisfying ourselves, so it's okay to be hungry a little. It's okay to make yourself friends with hunger. You're not going to die. You really aren't. Trust me. We're fine. Yes?
Well, hunger with food may seem somewhat simpler. How about hunger for, I want to say success, but like,
Yes.
where do you draw the line of you have your responsibilities?
Yes.
And then when you cross that line, you're borderline irresponsible, not to take care of, say, your schoolwork versus.
Yes.
So how do you, what do you do in that kind of situation?
Mm-hmm. So, number one, like there's no question about it, you must seek God. He's first, his kingdom is first in everything. You must be faithful in what you were called to do. So, in your studies, you must be faithful. In your work, you must be faithful. I'm cautioning that I don't think that that's our issue. I think we have ambition, and that ambition is way more about feeding our pride and our egos. Let me give you examples. St. Paul says, if you do not work, you do not eat. So there's the responsibility piece. He says you have to labor. Those of you who steal, stop stealing, but rather labor with your hands. And I love St. Paul because he didn't end there. Do you know what the rest of the verse says? Anyone? That you may have enough to give to those who do not have. Not so that you may buy yourself a killer car and have a beautiful home so people can gawk at your rims and call you homie. That's not the verse. That you may have enough. You may have enough. And that word enough is really challenging.
Is that 60%?
That's
So that you may have
enough. No, not in your studies. I'm talking about labor. So the reason why you're you have to be the best at everything that you're called to do. But the reason you're doing your best and you're laboring is not for yourself. It can't be. Why? Because Jesus wants our money? Like, do you think Jesus, why do you think he's telling us that? Because because He wants us to be miserable in life? No. He wants us to be like so joyful and so fully alive that He knows that when we live selfishly, we're miserable. Like there's like it's a spiritual law. It's a law of life. When you live for yourself, you will be miserable, period. It's just how it works. But when you forget yourself, in love for God and love for others, you will have a fullness of joy. You will suffer. Life will be difficult, but you will have joy and you will be satisfied. It's like there's no... But we keep doing the same thing. We try to live selfishly and be happy at the same time, and it just doesn't work. And you're like, why am I not happy? I have everything, Sayyidina. Like I told you that story. I have everything, and I'm not happy. Go confess, Habibi. Right? The key is not, again, so the discussion about how much do we give and how, all that becomes clear when you're hungry for God. There's no like set answer. There's no like rule. What happens is, the more you're hungry for God, the more you're in love with Him, the more you become like Him. And who is He? What is He like? He's the one who completely forgot Himself. So you begin to forget yourself too. Do you get what I'm saying? What are you hungry for? That's what you have to answer. Ask yourself tonight, what are you hungry for? What are you living for? What are you constantly going to consume? And I'm not talking about just the chips that you run to at night when no one's looking. What are you hungry for? What are you really hungry for? Are you lovesick? Is Jesus, if I asked you, who's Jesus to you, are you going to be able to just, He is this, and He is friend, and He's beloved, and He's provider, and He's lovely, and He's faithful, and He's my everything, and I would lay my life down for Him because He laid His life down. Is that? Or are you like, He's the one in the icon that's telling me not to do things? Who is your beloved? Who is He? I would encourage you.
We eat a lot after.
Yeah.